All right. So with all that going on, all of France splitting into factions, doing all that type of thing, if the country is still in turmoil, there's not a lot of jobs being created. Nobody has money. Nobody in the third estate has food. Price of bread is a ton of money right now. France begins a war with Austria, Prussia, and Britain. Austria and Prussia wanted King Louis back in charge. Wanted they had monarchies of their own, and they felt that if France succeeded in their revolution, their people would see the success France has happened, and their monarchies would be in trouble. So Austria and Prussia did not want that happening, so they started a war with France, and they had the Austrian and Prussian armies were invading France. The Parisians had one big military victory, and then Britain and a bunch of other people get in. But the good thing about this war was it unites them. It united the French people fighting against Prussia, against Britain, against Austria, and it really united them. The worst has yet to come, however. The Constitution, during the war, the Constitution is set aside. There is no more National Assembly. Rather, a new government is set up. It's called the National Convention. They write a new constitution, and they want more change. And the change they're looking for is not a constitutional monarchy. Rather, they want to get rid of the monarchy. They don't want there to be a king. They don't want there to be a queen. They want everybody gone. So how do they do that? How do you get rid of the king? How do you stop people from wanting there to be the king to come back into power? The only way is to give him a fair trial and execute him, to get rid of him. So the king must die so that the republic can survive was a quote on January 21st, 1793. And you can see the picture right here of a packed courthouse, all looking at and watching the trial of King Louis XVI. And eventually he was killed to show that there is no going back to the old form of government. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner of that picture is how Louis was actually died or killed. It was from the guillotine, and we're going to get more of that later. Here's a picture that was posted in a newspaper of King Louis's death. So, Robespierre and the Jacobins, we talked about that political club, was in control. And the Jacobins had a ton of enemies inside of France. Peasants were mad because of the king's execution. Priests from the church didn't want the government to control it. And then rival clubs or rival parties wanted to take over, wanted to be in charge of the country like the Jacobins were. Robespierre became the leader in 1793. And Robespierre and the Jacobins worked to build a republic, what was called a Republic of Virtue. And they wanted to wipe out every trace of France's past linked to the monarchy. There wanted to be no one thinking about bringing a monarchy back. And they did this through various ways, and one of the ways is quite funny, actually. They removed all kings, queens, and jacks from all playing cards. They felt that the kings, queens, and jacks were gave people the memory and maybe the fondness of having a monarchy back, so they took out all the kings, queens, and jacks, got rid of them. If you were found to have them, you would be in serious trouble. And the Committee of Public Safety, their job was to protect the revolution from its enemies, and I talked about the long list of enemies that the Jacobins felt they had. Now, the question is, who qualifies as an enemy? Because there's a swift penalty to all enemies. And really, anybody could have been an enemy. There was no evidence. It wasn't like these people took them to court, had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they were an enemy. Rather, just the opposite. If there was any notion, they would be sentenced swiftly and justly. Here's a picture. It says Vive Marat. He was the first leader of the Jacobins. And here is a lady going to her death. And the way the Committee of Public Safety and the Jacobins got their justice was by use of the guillotine. And you can see the guillotine here. It is a device that simply chops off your head. They lay you down in it. The blade right there falls down. Boom. Chops off your head. You are done. And this issues in about a year-long part of the French Revolution that is the most violent, that is the most terrifying part of the revolution. Anyone who the Committee of Public Safety deemed an enemy faced the guillotine, and it happened the whole year. And it became known as the Reign of Terror. Terror is nothing else than swift, severe, just as it flows, then from virtue, was a quote by Robespierre. As I said, enemies were tried in the morning is often the same. So if the Committee of Public Safety thought that you were an enemy of the state or enemy of the Jacobins, enemy of the France, you would be tried in the morning, and in the afternoon you'd be put to death by the guillotine. Biggest enemy of the state was the fellow radicals who challenged leadership. Among some of the more famous people who faced the guillotine during the Reign of Terror was Marie Antoinette. And the terror ends in 1794, July 1794, so it happened about a year. Like we talked about, enemies of the people were killed, and in fact, more or less, there is really no count, but estimates have it as high as 40,000 people died from the guillotine, and 85% of those people were peasants. So it was really the poor, lower class people who were put to death, along with a lot of the enemies of the state. Robespierre, after this, people are tired. 40,000 people dying. They do not want more death happening. People are tired of this from happening. So the Committee of Public Safety, in fact, orders Robespierre to die. And the reason they did this was because they feared their own death. They feared that Robespierre would turn on members of the Committee of Public Safety. So they just had him killed, and that happened on July 28th, 1794. So after this, people don't want any more death. They're tired of the previous government that was taking place, that was in control, the National Convention. So the National Convention, moderates in the National Convention, drafted a new plan for government, and it's the third since 1789, and it is known as the Directory. And just a brief overview of the types of government that took place during this time. So the first, the Estates General in 1789, they locked themselves in the room. They eventually became the National Assembly. That didn't work out. Well, it did work out, but they turned themselves into the National Convention. That didn't work out. The Reign of Terror, all that ruined it, and that became the Directory. So three governments in 6 different years, and there's just too much change and going on inside of France. So the Directory finds a good general, and this is going to lead into the next part of the French Revolution, is they find a great general to lead their country, one of the best generals in the history of the world. And as you know, this is none other than Napoleon Bonaparte, and that's where that's where we're going to lead next after this. So please write your summaries. Be very specific in your summaries. Ask as many questions. If you're confused about anything, please. I know there's a lot of information in here. Ask as many questions as you need. Thank you very much.